Shall we begin?
Sure.
Shall we begin?
Sure. Is Yuan Tai still here? Let's wait a minute for Yuan Tai.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, to all parents of the homeschooling group. So today, I'm very privileged to have two of my friends, clinicians from Thrive Psychology Clinic, and they are Willie and Vivian, and they will be sharing with us over the next 50 minutes or so on how to maintain harmony in the family without feeling burnout. So, as we are all aware, as homeschoolers, as parents, we spend a lot of time with our children, and spending more time with them means that there is actually more chances of friction. And so that can actually cause stress, and that's cause unnecessary friction and tension in our relationship with our children and also with our spouse. So without further ado, I just hand the time over to Vivian and Willie, and please take it away.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. Before we start, let us begin with a short introduction about ourselves. My name is Willie, and this is my colleague Vivian, and we are a team from Thrive Psychology Clinic representing Mind Culture. For myself, I'm a behavioral therapist working at Thrive Psychology Clinic. I work with children and youth facing a variety of behavioral and developmental difficulties, and utilize various therapy modalities such as behavioral and neurocognitive therapy to improve the mental well-being of clients.
And as for me, I develop and conduct workshops for children in the areas of stress management, leadership, social skills training, and also self-management. And I also work with children and youth with various challenging issues, some of which include impulsivity, oppositional behaviors, anxiety, and also metacognitive impairment.
So Mind Culture is a psychological center in Singapore which aims at improving the mental well-being of all individuals through both conventional and innovative modalities of therapy. Established in 2012, Mind Culture provides a host of services and treatments for all clients, and is partnered with both the School of Positive Psychology and Thrive Psychology Clinic. Today we will be sharing about the topic of how to manage family harmony without feeling burnt out. While it can be fulfilling, homeschooling is a difficult endeavor, and it can be very taxing not only on the parents, who need to fulfill multiple roles as a teacher and as a mother or father, but also on the children, who find that their work and home environments are also confounded. So here's our agenda for today. We will first cover what you need to know about parenting styles and the importance of work-leisure balance. Next, we will discuss ways in which we can maintain boundaries within the family unit before exploring strategies to foster and nurture your children's social development. Finally, we will conclude with a short question and answer session, hopefully shedding light on any doubts or uncertainties you may have or that may arise through the course of our seminar. So if you stay with us for the next hour, here are 5 main learning outcomes that you will take away. You will learn to recognize the factors that contribute to family harmony, understand parenting styles and their impacts on children, balance work and leisure within the family, learn methods to maintain boundaries with children and partners, and manage emotional needs and the behavioral outbursts of your children. With that, let's begin with parenting styles. Okay, now before we get into it, let's take a moment to look at the following scenario and consider 4 possible responses. Have a minute to think which of these most closely match your own individual parenting styles. So you can just take your time to read the different scenarios and the responses first.
So the scenario is your child forgets to feed the family dog, even though it is his turn to do so. So as a parent or future parent, what would you do?
I'll feed the dog. I'll feed the dog myself. Yeah.
So you'll feed the dog yourself. Okay, that's interesting. So maybe Vivian, what would you do if you were the parent in this situation?
Either 3 or 2. Sorry, 3 or 4, depending on my mood. Like if I want to explain or not, yeah.
So maybe we can go on to the next slide to see the different parenting styles that actually fit these descriptions. So for the first one, you tell him, get out here and feed the dog now. So you're very demanding and you're very strict. So this would be the authoritarian parenting style. For the second one, you say nothing and do nothing because you didn't even notice that your child failed to feed the dog. So this would be considered an uninvolved parenting style. For the third one, you explain the responsibilities of taking care of a pet and periodically check if he or she remembers to feed the dog. So here you're getting very involved with the upbringing of your child and also his responsibilities. So this would be the authoritative parenting style. And finally, for the permissive parenting style, you feed the dog yourself instead. So you do not hold the child accountable for his lapse of responsibility. So according to psychologists, most styles of parenting can be classified into one of these 4 categories: authoritative, permissive, uninvolved, and authoritarian. So let's start with the authoritative parenting style, on the top left. This parenting style is one that is high on control and warmth. The parent is responsive to the child's needs, feelings, and opinions, and is attentive and willing to listen to what they have to say. Rules are rationalized, boundaries are clearly set, and discipline is fair and just. A healthy degree of freedom is provided to the child, though within reasonable limits. Now moving to the top right, a permissive parenting style is one low on control but high on warmth. The parent sets rules but is inconsistent in enforcing them, and often ignores bad behavior. This kind of parent behaves more like a friend than a mother or father. At the bottom right, we have the uninvolved parenting style. This parenting style is one where the parent is indifferent and neglectful, though this may not always be the parent's intention, and is often unaware of the child's activities. The parent has minimal interaction with the child, and often these children end up having to raise themselves. Finally, at the bottom left, we have the authoritarian parenting style. So this one is one that is high on control and low on warmth. There's a constant emphasis on obedience and discipline, and the methods to enforce these are punitive and rigid, with a lot of punishment. Rules are not clearly explained, and the parent is unresponsive to the child's thoughts, feelings, or opinions. Instead, the child is taught to accept the parent's authority without question. So why is it important to know these different parenting styles? Regardless of whether children are homeschooled or schooled publicly, the interaction between parent and child has long-term and far-reaching consequences, not only on the child's individual development, but on the entire family unit as well. For homeschooling especially, parenting style is of greater importance because parents assume full authority over the child's life. So while children in public schools can recognize different kinds of authority because they have their teachers, their principals, their parents, but for the homeschooled children, the parents assume all of these roles together. So the parent oversees the academic teaching and progress of the child. The parent oversees how discipline is enforced, and also the morals and values and beliefs that are taught to the child. So with a reduced influence from external agents, the parent's position as the primary influence on a child's development is further cemented, and the parent-child relationship and interaction becomes the lens through which the child understands and learns about their world. As such, there is a greater need for parents to be aware of and manage their parenting styles. So now that we know the different parenting styles and why they are important, which is the best style or the style that we should strive for? While each of the parenting styles have their pros and cons, it's a general consensus in the psychological community that authoritative parenting is the ideal parenting style, with beneficial impacts on both the child in isolation and on his or her relationship with the parent. From correlational studies, it was found that children who underwent authoritative parenting were more likely to be responsible adults, more comfortable expressing their own opinions, generally more happy with higher self-esteem, and more resistant to peer pressure. So the parent-child relationships were also more secure, open, and expressive, where children were not afraid to confide in their parents. Nonetheless, it is important to keep in mind that while these findings have been supported by many studies, the data is only correlational in nature, meaning that more children who underwent authoritative parenting showed these results, but it does not mean that being an authoritative parent will guarantee them. Also, what classifies as authoritarian parenting varies across cultures. So in Chinese families, authoritarian parents tend to have closer relationship with their kids than in Western families. And the kids also show higher academic and school achievement. So ultimately, what matters most is the child's interpretation of and how they make sense of your parenting style. So whether your child feels loved, cared for, and listened to.
So Willie, is there a balance between the various different kinds of parenting style, and how can we balance and how can we strike a balance between having authority and then also enabling the child to make some decisions and take responsibility for some of the decisions?
I would say that that balance you're talking about probably falls under the authoritative parenting style, because in the authoritarian parenting style, there is no balance because there's no room for negotiation, because the parents' rules are the only rules that the child has to follow. But whereas for the authoritative parenting style, you can find that balance because you set the rules, these rules do not just come from you, but sometimes you can set them together with your child and agree on them beforehand. And then you also explain clearly why the rules are the way they are. So for example, if I was an authoritative parent and I was to tell my child that, okay, the curfew is 10 p.m., so 10 p.m. you have to come home. But then I'll also explain why. So maybe because after 10 p.m. it's dangerous because it's at night. So you want the child to be responsible in coming home early on time. But also in certain occasions, you may be a bit flexible with the rules within reason. So if the child comes at 10:05, but he explains that he had a late CCA session in school, then we do not punish him because we understand that that's actually the child still being responsible and it's not just doing it to defy you. So the balance comes in the negotiating and flexibility within the rules that you still set. Yeah,
Okay, Ken, thanks.
answers your question.
Debbie, welcome, and just feel free to ask any questions. You can unmute yourself or you can type in the chat box lah. Yeah, thanks, Willie. Yeah, please carry on.
Okay, so we can know about all the parenting styles, its impacts, and which styles parent can opt for, but we cannot deny that parenting is probably one of the most difficult jobs ever. And we feel that it is important for us to cover this topic on work-leisure balance for parents. Especially those with homeschooling children. So when it comes to homeschooling families, the work, home, and play environment is often overlapping and mixed up. For children, the home is where they learn, they play, and they relax. And parents, as Willie has mentioned, often juggle the dual role as both a parent and a teacher. So this dual role, on top of managing your own full-time or part-time work, can lead to hectic everyday schedules. And the inability to separate your work and leisure can lead to psychological consequences, such as uneasiness and stress. And parents' adaptive or maladaptive responses to the stress that they experience can be transmitted to their children. So stress can be experienced at both the individual level. So maybe as an individual parent, you can be overreactive, you can feel nervous, you can be easily irritated, and stress can also be experienced at a dyadic level. So in terms of interactions and your relationship. So for example, parents can find it difficult to enjoy interactions with their children, and they can also feel like they are unable to understand or have low tolerance for their children's emotional outbursts or behavioral expressions. So this parental stress that they experience can also affect the ability of the parent to enjoy and appreciate the parent-child relational experience, and the consequential negative impact on the child's well-being is stronger. And more stressed parents have found it more difficult to understand their child's needs and to respond in a sensitive way. And this effect is often intensified in homeschooling families, where homeschooling children spend far more time with their children than parents whose children attend traditional schools or even teachers in those schools. And ultimately, all of these conflicts, if they are persistent and unresolved, can greatly affect and disrupt family harmony. Therefore, it is very important for parents to strive for a work-leisure balance for their own well-being and also for the overall parent-child relationship and family harmony. So, what can parents do to work towards this balance? So firstly, we highly recommend parents to set clear boundaries and schedules. So boundaries can be physical, such as separating or demarcating workstations. So for example, for parents, you can set a specific table or room where you work. And the child can also have a specific area of the home where it is for their learning and for their homeschool classes. And secondly, boundaries can also be in terms of timing. So with children constantly around the house, parents can sometimes suffer from stress and tiredness. Sometimes their day hasn't been structured effectively to make room for a break, maybe because of young children or the schedules are just too demanding. So it's important to schedule in break times for yourself as a parent, maybe 5-10 minutes a day for like meditation. It can help greatly. So this point is crucial for the general well-being of the family, and really will dive into this topic a little bit more in the later part. And lastly, when scheduling time for your child and yourself, it is important to add in some buffer space. You can pace out the assignments and spread out the due dates. So this is to create a flexible schedule so you and your child can follow interests and discoveries wherever they lead without getting into major scheduling issues, burnout, or also to avoid conflict.
Okay, so next we move on to maintaining boundaries. So when homeschooling your children, you may find that a considerable part of your day is spent in their company. And this is unlike publicly educated children, where the kids go off to school, and every day for a good 6 to 7 hours, parents can have free time to themselves. Breaks are important in any kind of thing that we do, and parenting is no different. Parents need time away from their children to recharge, recuperate, and to maintain their energy and effectiveness as parents. This allows them to face their parenting responsibilities with a fresh mind without getting stressed, overworked, and burnt out. Not only is this healthy for the parents individually, but it also influences overall family harmony, as buildup of stress and tension can make people anxious, irritable, and short-tempered, all of which may negatively impact relationships. So to get alone time, studies have found numerous and varied benefits, such as improvements in productivity, concentration, relationships, and boosts to creativity, among others. Within the family, it is important for you and your spouse to normalize the taking time apart for your individual alone times, so that you can both have breaks to yourself without the need for feeling guilty. So how we can do this is that we can come up with a schedule and take turns with your partner to take your child out for outings, letting yourself or your partner have access to your own alone time. However, we should also let our children know about this schedule ahead of time so they know what to expect. In any marriage, spending couple time is also key to a happy relationship. Even with a family and children, couple time should not be neglected, as the relationship between the parents is the keystone to the entire family unit. When a parent has to juggle the multiple roles of disciplining, educating, and parenting their children, he or she may inadvertently allocate too much of their attention to the kids and give too little to his or her spouse. Over time, this can cause distance or even tension in marriages. Hence, it is also important to spend time together as a couple, without the children, to keep the passion and romance alive in the relationship. However, this can again be complicated because the child is always at home. So instead, some things we can explore is to let the child go out with their grandparents if the grandparents are available, or even stay over at their place for a night or two. So not only will this allow you to get a couple time that you need, but your child also gets valuable time to bond with their grandparents and valuable time away from you.
So moving on to the social development of homeschooling children. And to start off, we just want to talk a little bit about the characteristics and the environment of the traditional schooling system. So traditional schools, just like homeschooling, is not just about academics. Children can learn life skills through peer interaction and their CCAs, like critical thinking, decision making, and time management. So school is also where behavioral skills such as turn taking, asking for permission, and teamwork are developed. And they are also where potential behavioral issues are identified, usually. And traditional schools also allow for the development of social emotional skills, such as emotional regulation. So, for example, identifying and coping with how they are feeling, stress management, self-control also. And all of these skills learned can lead to children's social skills ultimately and how they behave in social settings. So, for example, it fits into how they communicate with others, how well they can understand other people's feeling, so empathy, and also how they understand social cues like body language and gestures, and also conflict resolution with their peers. So all of these elements that are usually learned in peer interactions and large classroom settings are difficult to target and achieve in homeschools because children interact mostly with parents, right? And sometimes their siblings. And I think what most people fail to realize is that social skills and EQ, emotional quotient, is incredibly powerful in a family because it puts an individual in control of their relationship with others. So, and that goes the same for children. So when children are well equipped with social skills, it helps them communicate their feelings better, ask for what they need, and ultimately feel more connected to the people that are around them, which includes their family, of course. And this will in turn improve family harmony and also the family bond. And this topic of social skills development almost always comes up when it comes to homeschooling discussions. It is mainly because there's a wide assumption that homeschooling takes place in isolation in a cave under a rock. But of course, we know that it's more than that. We know about the field trips, excursions, and play dates. I mean, non-COVID days lah. Okay. But sometimes there can be real struggles also with social issues, not because of homeschooling, but maybe because of underlying issues that affect a child's ability to relate or thrive in social settings. So this could be for children on the autism spectrum, social anxiety, and maybe they also have some learning difficulties. So all of these, plus the lack of peer interaction in large classroom settings, can make it difficult for social skills to be learned in homeschooling children. So there are many ways that parents at home can enhance their children's social development. And one of the most important one, of course, is to incorporate social skills learning in homeschool classes. So parents can use role-play scenarios, such as different settings, like in a fancy restaurant, in a library, on public transport. So they can go through the appropriate behavior for each setting. It can be their body language, their voice, how loud are they talking, how soft are they talking, whether it's appropriate. Parents can also go through social stories, where children can learn moral values like kindness, empathy, and consideration. So this will be great for like bedtime stories. And for another one is parents can use movies. So what we really like to do is one activity that we really like is the use of muted cartoons. So we will play them cartoon clips, but we will mute them so that the children don't know the conversation or the dialogue. And they would have to decipher based on the character's body language and facial expressions. So this encourages them to look for this kind of visual cues that is crucial in social settings. So next, it is also important to create opportunities for your children to engage in social interactions. So this can be letting them hang out with children at the playground, with their cousins, or other classes that they may join, such as music or dance class, whatever they're interested in. And so all of these opportunities and settings will allow them to put everything that they learn at home into practice, which is the last point. So when you're out, you can also encourage your children to approach others, maybe introduce themselves, practice active listening to others. It can be as simple as, encouraging them to order food at a restaurant. So all of these can allow for children's healthy development as a social agent, and it can greatly improve their overall behavior and also well-being, which will ultimately feed into how they behave at home too. And while there are many things that parents can do to foster your child's development, sometimes it can be advisable to seek professional assistance if you want to further enhance or maximize their potential. And there are many professional programs that specifically cater to this aspect of children's development. And one of these is the Positive Cognition Program, or PCP for short. So the PCP is an initiative developed by Mind Culture and Hissette House in collaboration with Neuro to provide programs for early intervention for conduct problems, and also provide an opportunity for children to build strong cognitive foundations, which will affect their ability to cope in a changing world of society. So PCP utilizes neurocognitive training, which uses sense band technology to identify areas and executive functions where the child can improve on. So as mentioned, the executive functions earlier, so the PCP targets the main 5: attention, memory, decision-making, spatial ability, and cognitive flexibility. And the aim of this PCP, other than improving children's executive functions, also looks to target social, emotional, and behavioral learning experiences through the weekly programs, which cover topics such as values, resilience, growth mindset, emotional and behavioral training. So for more information, you can always email us at info@mindculture.com.sg. And with that, we will wrap up our seminar with a short Q&A session.
Okay, thanks, Vivian and Willie. So I just have a couple of questions. First of all, what are some of the, in the COVID times, and it's always been the pain point for homeschoolers, how can we create an environment where we allow our children to have some social interaction, and especially during the past year, COVID, and there's quite a bit of restrictions. So what are some of the strategies that you can suggest we can help to create some opportunities for social learning or social interactions? That's the first question. And then second question would be then there's a part about how can we as parents and as a couple then create opportunities for me time, for couple time, so that we can maintain a sense of like maintain our relationship with our spouse and also with our children lah. What are some of the strategies that you can suggest that can do that? Yeah.
I think we'll target your first question first. So how can you encourage social learning during COVID times? So previously, when we are all in circuit breaker, everyone is stuck at home, so nobody can go out. And I think what would be really beneficial for children is like some of the activities that we have mentioned to target the aspect of social learning when it comes to understanding emotions, understanding how to ask for what they need, how to express themselves. And there are many resources online that can be used in activities to target all of these. So role play is always a good idea for parents to do with their children. And I think ultimately it is important for them to understand the emotional aspect of social skills. So how to manage and identify their own emotions first, because it all comes from them. And then they can also practice how to communicate to others how they are feeling. And they can also practice conflict resolution with parents when they are all, at home. So when the measures are, like when circuit breaker is over and we can allow for small gatherings, it is where they can also put everything that they learn into practice. So we encourage, hanging out with relatives. If you have relatives of the same age as your children, that can be a great platform for them to interact and also communicate with one another. Or you can also invite friends over for like a small gathering, and then they can also put all of the things that they have learned into practice. Yeah.
I think to add on to Vivian's point, even during the heat, the strongest part of the circuit breaker, when you really can't even meet immediate relatives, you can always use Zoom, just like we are doing now. Just so even like Zooming your grandparents, Zooming your friends. So if the grandparents are tech savvy enough, of course, so just Zooming them, you can even like just catch up on how you are doing and have that actual genuine social interaction as well.
Okay, can. Thanks Willie as well.
Yes. So for your second question is basically how can parents create opportunities for me time or couple time, right? And so some ways we outlined was that one parent can bring the child out for an outing while the other parent gets their alone time. So during the circuit breaker, maybe this is not possible. So one parent can watch a movie with the child at home or play a board game, while the other parent can use that time to rest and pursue their own hobbies or interests. Or even when it comes to teaching academics during the circuit breaker, the parents can work out a schedule where they alternate the days where they need to teach or days where they need to interact with the child. So on the other day, then the other parent can take the time to do their own hobbies or pursue whatever interest they have for themselves.
And as for couple time, I think what is really important is to maintain boundaries like we have talked about. So in terms of time, maybe you can set a specific time frame whereby you are there for your child. I mean, you are there 24/7, right? But a specific time frame where the child can approach you for anything. And maybe let's say like after 10 p.m. it's lights out time. You also can explain that, as parents, we also want to relax. So that's our relaxing time, if the child can understand like this concept. Yeah. And then in terms of spatial and physical boundaries, you can also explain to the child that your bedroom is the place where, mommy, daddy get to relax. And then inside the bedroom, we don't do work, we don't learn, we relax only. Yeah, so these are the kind of mini boundaries that you can set and explain to your child, especially when all of you are stuck at home in under one roof with not much place to go to. Yeah.
Okay, can. Thanks. Thank you, Vivian and Willie, and yeah, thank you very much for today's webinar. So
Thank
I'll
you for
send you
having
the
us.
Thanks for listening, and
you.
I'll send you the information via email.
Yeah.
And see you around soon. I'll drop by a
Thank
visit
you.
to the clinic. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.